Hello students, welcome to another edition of Photoshop. In this one I'm going to teach you how to add things to a photo. So I picked out this photo of my son uh, and I'm going to make him into a pirate with maybe like a monster in the back or something. I don't know. We'll see how it goes. I thought it was perfect that his hand was in the sleeve, so I'll give him a little hook in here and give him a little pirate hat and then a little monster. Now I've already uh, prepped some of the stuff, but some other stuff I haven't. So I've already looked up the photos and stuff. So I'm going to use this hook hand, and it's on white, which is really great because you could use this little thing called the magic wand. Um, you'll probably have a quick select first, so it'll probably be a tool like this. You have to hold click and select your magic wand and just click on the white area and it'll select everything that is white, and that's great and all, but we want actually the opposite of that selection. So you go to the select and go to inverse. Inverse is opposite. It's the same thing. Control C for copy, or just edit copy, and then go to your file here, go to your other picture. So I went from the hook, copied it, going over here, Control V for paste, or edit paste. Okay, and here it is. Here's my hook, and I could move it around wherever I want. It's just going to be right here. It's just going to be hanging out. I could turn it, I could make it larger, I can do just about anything with this thing right here. um, so I'm just going to put it in a general area. I don't want to do anything else. I just want to make this composition. So I'm just going to leave it right here. Right now it doesn't look like he actually has a hook. It's fine. Not a big deal. Now I want to deal with this. I want to deal with this hat. The same thing. It's on white background. That's perfect. You select the white background with your magic little wand here. Go to selection. Hit the inverse. And it'll inverse everything selected, so you're only selecting the hat. Control C for copy. Control V for paste. Here's our hat. Okay. It's a little small. It's okay. We can make it bigger. All right. Here it is. I could rotate it a little bit. All right. It's cool. I just want to get like a general area of where I want this hat to be. All right. Here it is. Here's the hat and his hook. That was pretty fast, right? You could add things really, really quick to that, or like that. So the next thing is the monster. Now, I looked for a monster, but monsters generally don't come in white backgrounds, okay? So here's one that I had pre-outlined already. I used this little guy, which is the polygon lasso. There's the freehand lasso, magnetic lasso, and the polygonal lasso. I generally do the polygonal, and if you noticed, I went around and gave it quite a bit of space in between the actual object and where the lasso is. So I'm going to control copy, control C, excuse me, and control V, and there's our little monster. Okay, move him around. I can make him bigger again. Let's just make him like that, and oops, I don't want to do whatever I did. Maybe I'll turn him a little tiny bit just so he kind of blends in with stuff. And I might just put him back here somewhere. Um, and that's good for me. That'll do. Now I could really start working on the whole scenery. Just placed where everything is. I'm going to start with the hook. Let's go with the hook first. Okay, and it's a good idea to label your layers just so you know what you're dealing with. Hook, just double click the title hat and it'll get you into the rename section. Monster. Now everything is above the background. The background is the photo of my son. The hook is on top of that, the hat is on top of the hook and the background. The monster is on top of all three. It doesn't matter though because they're all in different areas, and it's okay if they're layered weird. So here's really where I need to show depth inside. So I don't want the hook to be here. I want it to be around here, but I also want it inside his sleeve, right? So how would I do that? first I need to really kind of change the opacity on this guy because I see too much of the hook. I see all the hook and not enough of the sleeve, and I need to see the sleeve to be able to start working with it. So I'm going to cut the opacity down a little bit just so I could work with it. That's all it's for. Okay, and I'm going to use a lasso again, and I'm going to zoom in quite a bit more so I could see more detail. Okay, and I'm going to start with his sleeve, where his sleeve meets the black area here. See how there's a hole there in his sleeve? That's kind of what I want to make a line out of. Now what I'm actually doing is cutting off the rest of this hook, right? So I'm selecting this whole thing, and what's nice about layers is it'll only work in this layer. So when I hit delete, there, that portion is gone. Okay, magic wand, deselect. That portion is gone, and it's only the hook that's left. Okay, that's awesome. Let me bump the opacity back up. There it is. Okay, there's the hook, and it's inside his sleeve. Okay, or at least it looks like it. You could always add some shadow manually. Select the hook and just go and select like a little paintbrush right here, and just how about a black or something? Yeah, and you could add in shadow, but I don't want a full-on shadow. I want the opacity to be like 35, you know, and then you could just do a little shading so the shadow looks like it's being cast by the sleeve itself. Okay, so smooth it out a bit like that. Okay, just add in some black shadow here, and make sure it's gradient. Oh, there's his little hook. Okay, I don't really agree with what's going on with the reflections around it, because that's poor lighting, or it's not poor lighting, I say it's inaccurate lighting, I should say. So I'm just going to do that. Okay. All right, there he's got a hook. Perfect. So how I'm zooming in like that, so I'll flawlessly. So I'm holding Alt, and then I'm using the scroll wheel, and then wherever my pointer is going, that's where I'll be zooming out of. Okay, or zooming in to. Okay. So kind of the same thing with the hat. The hat is really, there isn't really much to do with this hat except for maybe making it bigger, because see where the top of his head is? Yeah, the hat sits on top of the head. And now the thing about this hat is it's a little out of perspective. So you have to kind of play around with the size a little bit, but I think that maybe this should do it right there. Apply, that should do it. Again, I want to add a shadow down here, because on the hat casts a shadow on faces. So here I go back to this, and I want to make it a little bit bigger just so I can do it quicker. Okay, yeah, perfect. And I'm just gonna add this shadow here. Just gonna go through on his face. Okay, the shadow is on his face. Okay, this part of his hair. Alright, cool. And there's some on his hair as well. And it's kind of if you notice, it makes like a V shape, and so the shadow should probably make a V shape as well. So there we go, his hair. Go, and I'll make the V shape here. Okay, shadow his ear there, and I'll do that there, just like that. All right, there he is with his shadow on his face with the hat. Now the hat also kind of needs a little shading here too, so I'm just going to get rid of this highlight here, because highlights don't exist like that when there's a shadow on the face. So, and that's just things that I know as an artist. I'm just going to get rid of that. And the lines are a little too sharp, and I'll probably blur them up because they're a little too crisp compared to the lines over here. And the way to do that is just use a simple blur tool, just like that, and just go in and soften up the edges, okay? Just so it all matches. And now I'm only on the layer of the hat, so it'll only blur the hat layer. Okay, I'm going to increase the size because it's taking too long. Okay, just blur the edges so it matches what the edges look like on the photo itself. How I could drag this around is hold spacebar and it'll turn into a hand. Hold spacebar, click, and you could drag your work around. Okay, just like that. And it's also kind of blurring the shadow a bit, which is handy. See, it looks more like a shadow. Okay, I'll blur this. Blur this. Could even blur some of the hat, portions of the hat. There. And it's okay if this stuff is in focus. Some of it needs to be in focus, not all of it. I like this part that it's in focus because it's against a blurry background, so that works for me. And if you don't like it, you could always move it around. You see that? It's only that area that has the shadow. Yeah. Okay. Now onto this monster. So we got this hook, we got his hat. Now let's go to this monster. Okay. See how there's background elements from the other photo? There's this stuff in here. So we're going to go ahead and edit that out. We're going to cut it all out. So the way I do it is the polygonal tool, and I really zoom in. Really zoom in. Just because I want to get everything accurate. Okay. And I just outline where that tan meets the brown. Okay. Here we go. And I don't want this crap in here. I don't want any of this, so I'm just going to cut that out too. I just want the rocks and his legs. That's all I want. There's going to be enough crap in the background that I don't have to worry about. And so I'm actually going a little bit on the inside of where he actually is, so you'll see why. It's a little easier to do fades. So here we go. Same thing, just hit the delete button after you select it. Now this stuff right here, it's drastically different than the brown. So you could magic wand, select it, delete. Magic wand, select, delete. Magic wand, select, delete. And do that for little tiny areas like that. Really comes in handy. Right? So all that stuff is transparent. You could do the same thing with this. Look at that, how fast that is. I didn't even have to cut that out. See that? Same thing for this area. Magic wand, delete. Oh, too much. So tolerance. Let's talk about tolerance. Step backwards. So the reason that this selected everything here is because my tolerance is up to 30. If I knock it down to 10, it'll only tolerate colors of this color and sort of kind of almost similar, but not really. See, the similarity kind of went down, so I could start selecting colors that are not if my tolerance was up to, let's say, 90, check this out. I select this color, almost the whole thing got selected because of that. Okay, because everything almost is the same color here, so that's why I want to knock it down to 10, because I really want to only very specific things to get selected. So here we go. Whoa. If you zoom in too far, it'll show a grid on mine, and I don't have the time to turn it off, that feature off. But the other thing about tolerance is it doesn't go far enough sometimes. So 15 maybe. And so I'm just going to step backwards a little bit and see if I can get this in one whole swipe instead of 15. Okay, let's bump it up to 20. That looks a little better. That looks, yeah. Okay. Now that we got the translucencies, or the spaces that are obviously supposed to be, you're supposed to be able to see through, we're clearing that out. Now he's coming together more. So here's where tolerance again really comes in handy. Bumping it down. See, if I were to erase that, I'd be actually erasing part of his arm, and I don't want to. Okay. I only want to erase this portion. So here's another little place. The greater the color difference, the better it is. The better it works. So this is yellow, tan, so it's going to detect it a lot better. Okay, there's a few elements here. And you could manually erase these as well by just using the eraser. There's some. I'm going to get rid of that. Okay. So I'm going to bump the tolerance down a bit, down to 10 again, because I don't want any of the arm particularly to get selected. So I even want to bump it even more down, because look at that, some of his arm again is getting selected. So maybe 5 instead. Yep, that's good. And this is a really quick way to just get rid of junk around your subject matter, I guess. Super quick way. Select, delete, select, delete. I'm not going to compare this to a game because this is nowhere near a game. It's just tedious. I enjoy tedium. I don't know why. I bump this up back up to 10. This is messy over here. That's okay. I'll take care of it later. Okay. I think I got everything. It looks like I got everything out here. The only thing is that the lighting doesn't match, right? So we'll have to fix that. So this is kind of junky right here. You see all that junk everywhere. This is where the eraser comes in, this little guy. And you could just erase it, maybe? Why can't I erase it? Oh, I hate that. Okay, so it wouldn't let me erase because something was selected. So go back to block. So when something is selected, you could only work in the confines of the thing that is selected. So like if I selected a little portion of this number here, the 6-8, I can only work within where the number is. Okay, get rid of that, get rid of that. Clean it up, and you could even go back through and soften everything up to make it disappear. All the little mistakes, all the rough edges. Edges, not ages. This is kind of messy, so I'm just going to make something up here. Just going to kind of erase by the lines. Okay. I don't want this here. And if you screw it up, whatever. It's alright. You could always hit Control-Z to undo and start over. Okay, so I'm going to go back to the 6-8 again. And I'm going to make it a little bit bigger. So I'm going to make it 6-8. And I'm going to make it 6-8 again. 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 And I'm going to make it 6- said, this isn't for everyone. I really enjoy this work. Alright, so I do kind of want to soften up the edges, just because, just a tiny bit. It looks good, but I do want to kind of just put a slight blur on it. Just like that. So at least it kind of seems like I took a shot with the same camera, the same lighting and all that. Okay, there. Now he's kind of standing kind of weird. I mean, he's obviously photoshopped in some you know, flowers here, or whatever this is. No, it's high bush cranberries, I think that's what it is. So I want to kind of make sure that we got to decline this call from my wife because I'm in the middle of a video. So he's kind of hanging out in these bushes. Let's actually make him considerably bigger, right? Let's make him bigger, and let's make him hanging out here in the middle of these bushes here, right next to little buddy. I don't know. Here, let's see. You can move things around to see where it's more believable, you know. So maybe he's more believable right here. And like I've done before, I turned down the opacity so I could see the background and what I could work with. So I'm going to put him right here. I think this is good. The rocks kind of meet up. And I'm just going to apply that and then polygon this line area. See where I'm just kind of following the trees and the flowers, you know, and how they're shaped. So it looks like he's standing in all that stuff instead of on top of it or something. Okay. We'll see how that works out. If you hear a knocking, that's probably because the wind is blowing really, really hard, so try to ignore that. So I'm coming up over here on this open spot, and I really kind of need to make my way back up there, so I'll try to do that so it looks somewhat believable. Okay, and just hit the delete button. Hit that. Looks all right. Not entirely convinced, but it looks okay. You could always kind of move them a little bit off of there, move them around. Okay, and again, I'm going to soften him up where he meets the edge here, where he meets all that stuff. Just put a blur on it, just like that. And again, like I've said before, objects that are standing there, they kind of give off a shadow, and I can't really tell where the shadows are coming from. Over here, there's no shadow of him or anything, so it looks like the light spots over here and there are dark spots over here, just like what the hat is doing. So that's kind of what I'm going to go with for the shadows on the bottom here too. So here's my little pen tool. I'm going to make it really large so I can start putting in the shadow of where, and I'm even going to go inside here and darken some of this stuff up too, because there's way too much weird highlight. Now, as long as you have the mouse down, everything will stay the same opacity. It will not change. So here's a shadow of him. It's gonna overcast here, connect down here. Remember, a shadow is exactly opposite what you are doing. Okay, just like that. I'm just gonna darken this up because I do not like what's going on with that. Okay. And I think that's probably okay right there. We'll see how that works out afterwards. See this strip too? It's no good. Okay. So I'll put another layer down just because he's such a dark creature. Okay. I'm just doing a really fast, quick, rough shading. Okay, job here. So this is essentially what they do to magazines. This is exactly it right here. There's nothing different. They go in, they Photoshop, and then they adjust just like that. So actually I want this to be a little darker and this to be a little darker. And they use techniques called smoothing to get like blemishes off of the face or something, or any kind of wrinkles, like, oh, here's something I don't want. So they'll go in and whoops, they'll use things like blur, and they could blur it out, or they could use a clone tool. Like if he had wrinkles, I could just blur them out just like that, just soften them out. You know, you don't see me doing that because I'm not selecting under him, but I could just blur out his food stain or whatever that was, or in his eyes I could blur that out so they're not so red. And you could literally watch it disappear right in front of your eyes there. So that's how they do that. Okay, that looks good. I like that. Let me look at this hook some more here. Let me blur the edges so they're not so crisp, so they match the photo edges of the edges of his sleeve. See how the edges of his sleeve are kind of blurry? That's what they need to match. So there you go. There's a little buddy with his little buddy as a pirate. That's how you do it, right? Enjoy your time exploring.